What's up? This is my cat Cookie. Today we're talking about the new horror movie Weapons. This film was directed by Zach Cregger, who you might know from the movie Barbarian. This movie stars Julia Garner, Josh Brolin, Benedict Wong, and newcomer Kerry Christopher. I'll start off by saying there's not really a main character in this film. Contrary to what the trailer made us believe, Julia Garner is not really the star. However, each of the performances from the main lead cast were excellent and totally believable. I do think each main cast member stood out in their own way. I especially want to shout out the performance from the young actor Kerry Christopher. He totally sold me on his character and I loved his acting. Julia Garner, Josh Brolin, and Benedict Wong are obviously very seasoned actors, and they also did a really good job in their roles. The story in this film was very original, and I really appreciate that now in this day and age where we've got nothing but remakes and rehashes of the same old tropes. I do think this film had really solid horror elements. There was a lot of things that I hadn't really seen before, but I wouldn't say that this film is particularly scary. Some of you might be disappointed in that, but I will say this. It was a great theater experience. We had a really good crowd in our theater, and the reactions that they were giving were so fun, and I'm so glad that it was such an enjoyable time. I'm going to talk spoilers here, so make sure that if you haven't seen this movie, skip to the end of the video. So as I said a little bit ago, this movie was not super scary. Obviously there were some jump scares. There were definitely some horrifying elements. But as far as being a scary movie first, this definitely was not that. I want to say that this was kind of like a 50-50 split between being a horror movie and a comedy. There were so many moments in this film that had the entire theater laughing, and I totally did not expect that. The one-liners and comedic breaks from all of the actors were so good and were executed perfectly. Now, for those of you that have seen it, you guys know that this was a non-linear story, which I absolutely loved. The way that they had chapters for each of the individual characters and how they all converged at the end was awesome. There was a lot of foreshadowing and details in the first half of the movie that I noticed that actually ended up being resolved in the second half. I did want to specifically mention Paul, the police officer in this film. He is a terrible person. I mean, not only cheating on his wife, but also the police brutality. It was pretty crazy, but also kind of funny just how bad of a person he was. Archer, who's played by Josh Brolin, was a really great character, and I loved his intensity and his seriousness. Now, all of these characters end up having some sort of dream or nightmare, and Archer's dream was really interesting to me. There are definitely shades of a school shooting theme in this film. You've got an entire classroom gone, and the only kid remaining was the one that was getting bullied. And also the not so subtle scene of a giant AR style rifle in the sky. There's definitely lots of arguments to be made about what exactly this movie's messaging is, but I do think that a school shooting theme was one of them. I also want to shout out Amy Madigan, who plays Gladys in this movie. Her character was so creepy and designed so well, while also being charismatic and just a force of a character. I love the witchcraft vibes in this movie. There's obviously a lot of lore that they don't explain as far as how her powers work or the ritual she's doing. It reminded me a lot of Robert Eggers' movie The Witch. It gave me the same kind of mysterious and spooky vibe that movie did. There's also other hints like Gladys saying a touch of consumption, which is an old term for tuberculosis. It's little things like that that really got me wondering, who is this lady? How did she become a witch? How old is she? And things of that nature. The story unfolded so well, and I think they did such a good job of building suspense in this film. Every time they went to Alex's house, I was at the edge of my seat. The way the door opens almost on its own, and it's just a black void in there. The newspaper covering the walls, the shadowy figures sitting on a couch. And then, of course, when the film takes the audience inside, it just gets even crazier. The cinematography on some of these scenes were so good, and I love that they kind of attached the camera to every door in the movie. From Paul's police car to the front door of Alex's house, I really thought that the way that they decided to shoot some of these scenes elevated the experience. Speaking of the cinematography, I cannot go on without mentioning the final scenes in the movie. Alex ends up repeating Gladys's ritual from memory and gets all of the kids to chase down Gladys. The chase scene was shot so incredibly, and it was crazy to see a little girl chase down Gladys like she's Micah Parsons. The over-the-shoulder perspective was crazy, and of course, Gladys getting ripped apart was so visceral and violent. I'm not sure how I really feel about the narration at the beginning and end of this film, but I will say that it's very sad that Alex really didn't come out on top in any way. Not only did he go through this whole experience where he's having to keep his family and these kids alive, but also now his parents aren't really able to live on their own. And on top of that, he has to move to another city. I left the theater feeling really, really sad for his story. This was such a great time in the theater, and I highly encourage any of you guys that have the opportunity to go and see it. If you happen to get the right crowd, it's gonna be a blast for everybody. I really appreciated the original story in this movie. I'm getting really sick and tired of seeing the same things over and over again. Zach Cregger, as he did with Barbarian, did an awesome job with this one. I gave this one a 4.5 on Letterboxd. When I walked out of the theater, there was a guy on his phone saying that the movie was terrible. So if you're like him, I need to hear from you. Why didn't you like this movie? What were some things that upset you or didn't make sense? As always, I really appreciate you guys who've watched all the way to this point, and make sure you argue with me in the comments.